Thank you so much. Hi everyone. My name is Andrea K. I'm really grateful to be here. Happy Saturday. Welcome to anyone that's new. Andy, thank you for asking me to be of service today. My sobriety date is May 4th, 2013. I share that I have a sobriety date because I'm grateful. I definitely shouldn't be someone that should be on a Saturday morning right now trying to share their experience, strength, and hope. And so if you're new, and this is like your first Zoom meeting or you've been to other meetings, like welcome. Like everyone has a different message, everyone has a different flavor. I had to really watch for comparing myself, and I just wanted to throw that out there and try to identify, not compare. And I'll just start a little bit from my background, what it was like for me. I grew up in a very high functioning alcoholic home. This disease ran deep on both sides. Both were afflicted with mental illness, addiction, and alcoholism. And as far as I can remember, I feel like I was always restless, irritable, and discontent, like the book talks about. I was always so uncomfortable in my skin. I was constantly comparing myself to everyone else in school. I thought that I should have had blue eyes, blonde hair, been skinnier, smarter, whatever it was. I also had a lot of trauma and abuse growing up. I share this to just be helpful, this is not why I'm an alcoholic, but like some of the things that I had experienced as a young child were a result of my parents' own drinking and what they were, how they wanted to live their lives. They worked really hard, but they played really hard too. And so a lot of babysitters were babysitting us, and not everyone, there was no nanny cams back then. And so we ended up, my younger sister and I, getting molested from a really young age from a female babysitter. And then my father, he was old school Italian, and he was someone that had a heavy hand, and it was like, don't even think about it. I can get you from over here. And that was like the type of upbringing that I had. And then my mom, she was not, I would always wish that she was one of those TV moms that would like bake the cookies and like welcome you as you came home from school. And she was not that type. But all of this, with that being said, is just a little context of like a lot of this baggage that I told, I had in my head about like how the world looked based on these experiences. And I know now, because of this program, that my parents absolutely love me. They did the best they could with what they had, and they came from this disease as well. And that was something that I was never going to be able to get to without this work. And so with them trying to do the best that they could, they were also some people that weren't practicing Catholics, but they thought that we should be, my sister and I, when I say we. So they brought us to church, when it was convenient, so I had all the sacraments. So I was brought up Catholic, an Irish Catholic, Italian household. And I had a lot of ideas about God. And in the beginning, I very much believed. I really, really thought that there was a God, and I would pray. And like all these things that I just told you that were going on, where was God? Like I just felt like there was no God. Like there was like I kept praying and thinking like this should be different. Like my life should be different. The painful situations I shouldn't be going through if there was a God. And that's what I attributed to. So by the time that I was 11, 12 years old, I turned my back on God and didn't think that there was one. And I sought out alcohol and other substances very abundantly. And my first drink was at the age of 11. And so, like I said, my parents drank very much. They played really hard. So alcohol was very abundant in my household. It was the 80s. I didn't get sober till I was about 31. I'm 42 now. So just to give you a little bit of a timeline. So it was, a very different time period. And there was a lot of partying, that was in the household. And I couldn't wait to drink like them. Like I thought that they had it made. Like I wanted to be an adult before I was, I was only a kid. And so I drank. I found by myself in a situation where there was like this like seemingly glorious absolute vodka handle bottle like on the table when no one was watching, and I just ended up picking it up and I started chugging it. Like no one taught me how to drink that way, like that was just something that just like came, and it burned really badly, but the effect like that, all of that stuff that I just told you about how my brain was comparing myself to everyone else. I wish my life was different, self-pity, victim, all of this stuff. Like literally it worked. Like alcohol did for me what it does not do for other people. And it completely made me be so in the moment where I had so much relief. Like it totally did the job for me. And it got me to have like almost like what people are talking about, like being close to God. Like I literally, the effect was so elusive is what the book describes it as. And it did it. It did that for me. And I chased that feeling. And so I got into a lot of trouble at a very young age. I had a lot of problems in school as a result of me drinking so young. And I was stealing vodka now from my parents' alcohol cabinet that they had locked, but I knew how to break into. And I was bringing it into Poland Springs bottle and acting like it was water. And then at 7 a.m. drinking before school, just because what was going on was that I had a lot of anxiety. I was not okay talking to people. I had a lot of depression at a young age. I had a lot of stuff. And like alcohol literally made me feel like I could be one among many. I could go to school, not worry as much what people were thinking, and I could be more free and I could be more interactive and popular. But the problem was I wasn't just doing it at the parties. I was doing this, I mean, like on a daily basis. And I needed something in my system at all times, whether it was alcohol or outside things, drugs, whatever. I'm not going to get into all that, but like it was just one of those things that I was not okay in my own skin sober. And I didn't want to live life sober once I had found that this was a way of that, like something that could help me and be okay with. And so my parents had a lot of calls from the schools. I got in trouble, like I said. They didn't know what to do with me. They had brought me into different psychiatrists and therapists, and I got a lot of diagnoses as a result. Again, I'm sharing this in case this is helpful for someone else, but I had been diagnosed with major depression, anxiety disorder. I had learning disabilities, ADD. I had borderline personality disorder is what they told me. And then I had something else, I can't remember. But anyway, so that was all of this stuff that they gave me a lot of psych meds for. And because of my history of abusing anything, they didn't give me the stuff that I actually wanted. And so like a lot of these medications didn't work like alcohol, you know? And so like I only wanted to do what I wanted to do to treat my inner condition, which is what I was talking about with the way that alcohol worked so well. And none of those other meds were really like giving me that gratification instantly anyway. And I didn't have a lot of patience as a good alcoholic. And so I ended up getting in a lot of trouble. My parents were threatening to put a chins on me and take me to, you know, drug testing and all these courts and all this stuff. And I just wanted to be left alone. And by the time that I was 15 years old, there was so much fighting going on in my household and toxic dysfunction as a result of me being considered the problem, that my best thinking was like, you know what? I should just kill myself. Like I really just thought like that was like the best answer that I had at that time, because I didn't want to go into I didn't want the courts to take me out of my current household, even though it was dysfunctional. It was better than what I didn't know, you know, and I had a lot of fears and stuff. And so I just didn't want to deal with not being able to do what I wanted. It was really like the crux of the problem was selfishness. And so I didn't care how I treated or affected anyone else. It was all about me. And I ended up trying to kill myself because of these consequences that were going on. And I thought that my parents' life would be better if I just killed myself. Like I really didn't understand that they didn't have a child, that they wanted, you know, to have a happy family too. And like they didn't create me so that I was their servant, because I used to blame them for making me do chores, all of this stuff. Like I thought, like just skewed thinking is what I'm trying to get at. Like my brain was just not okay, and everyone else was the problem and it was not me. And I ended up in a coma as a result of a very serious suicide attempt for 3 days. And my family was horrified. They could not believe that life was so bad for their 15-year-old girl that I would want to do that. And so that opened up a lot of doors for more treatment options that we didn't know were available. But again, nothing worked like alcohol for me. And that was the first time that I was exposed to AA. And I was in the dual diagnosis psych ward at Melrose Wakefield, which is near where I live in Massachusetts. And there was a commitment that came in, and this guy was talking about this was like probably a middle-aged man that was talking about losing his kids, getting a DUI, losing his job, like all of these things that I thought was a very interesting story. But at 15, I definitely did not identify with what he was talking about and could not hear like all of the things that maybe I also had too. And I was absolutely still really young. But what happened was it planted the seeds of me knowing that AA was out there. And what the psychiatrist and all the doctors in that treatment facility did was they told my parents about AA and that I should start going to meetings. And so I started really young going to AA, and I would just steal the keychains, or I tried NA too. I tried all different 12-step programs, whatever it is, and really it was just to get my parents to get off my back. And I wasn't really serious about it. I could not hear the message. And honestly, alcohol was still working for me in such a way that I did not want to stop, but everyone else wanted me to stop. And I was having a lot of fun doing it, despite all these consequences that everyone else was going crazy, trying to manage and control my drinking. I was not there yet. I wasn't trying to manage and control my own drinking. I didn't have a problem with my drinking. Everyone else did. And so it just got worse as time went on, but I got smarter and I got better at managing it and learning how to get away with things without it being like so much where it was like a constant crisis all the time. And so I learned how to lay low under the radar. I got a boyfriend that I was really codependent with, that I could do a lot of my drinking at their household, and just got a lot smarter. And so by the time that I was 18 years old, I had gotten expelled though by my high school. I was not living right still. And I got caught by skipping school, and I got in a lot of trouble with certain circumstances that it's not necessary to talk about in an AA meeting. And so I ended up getting forced into treatment again. And so this happened. So just to like fast forward a little bit, like this kept going on well into my 20s. And I ended up working in the restaurant world, where I could really just, work all night and sleep all day, like party, work all night and then sleep all day. And that worked for me until it didn't. And then I was in and out of treatment for a really long time, well into my 20s. And now, to fast forward it just a little bit more, later in my 20s, like I'm talking about like 25, 26 years old, it's not fun anymore. It's not cute anymore. I'm waking up crying because I'm waking up, and all I want to do is die. Like I literally cannot, it's not fun. I didn't have the friends. I wasn't the life of the party. I had burned a lot of bridges. I had been in and out of sober houses all over Massachusetts and treatment facilities, upstate New Hampshire. And locked units. And my parents were so worried and so scared about me making my own decisions that they wanted me to sign my life over to them so that they could be my guardians. And everyone else seemingly was having careers at this age, maybe even starting families. Like, so if you want to like compare yourself to everyone that's going on Facebook, like, again, I was told that Facebook only shows you what you want, what they want you to see. But like, that was like, I was not living okay. And I was not a member of society, and my depression and all those diagnoses that I had were really exasperated. But now the problem was that drugs and alcohol stopped working, and like I was not okay no matter what, and I wasn't okay sober, and I wasn't okay drinking or doing other things. So I ended up getting sectioned, and I ended up at McLean's Hospital, which in Massachusetts is considered one of the best facilities that you can go to. And I ended up in one of their residential programs. And that, literally looking back, was God doing for me what I could not do for myself. And because what had happened was this residential program now, I had been at McLean several times, but not in this residential program. So this residential program what it looked like was you would go to treatment centers and group. I mean, sorry, I can't even talk. Treatment groups that they had for depression or whatever else it is, harm reduction, whatever, throughout the day. But then they made you go to a 12-step program at night. And this counselor there, his name is Miles. And his name is important because I actually named my second son after him, because he literally changed my life by all he really did was literally told me that not all AA meetings are the same. Because the meetings that I had been exposed to, now I know I was young telling you about the 15-year-old AA version, but when I did get older, I still didn't know that there was 12 steps available, because a lot of the meetings that I had been exposed to were talking about just go to meetings, just don't drink. And that does work for some people, but for the alcoholic of my type, that was not something that was going to work for me. And I really thought that I was doing AA just by going to these meetings, but I was not okay. As you can hear in my story, I could not stay sober no matter what. And so this guy told me not all AA meetings are the same. And he suggested that I go to a Brookline young people's meeting that met on Saturday nights. And I didn't really have a choice at that time. I had to go because in order to stay in the program and not be homeless at this point, I needed to make sure that I was maintaining what they were asking me to do. And so you got to go to a 12-step program, but then you had to go back and you had to take a breathalyzer, or if they wanted to quick cup you or whatever it was, in order to make sure that you were staying sober. They could do that. But if they found you to be not right, and they, you failed a drug test, then you would get kicked out. So like, it was a locked unit to a certain extent. But I went to this meeting, and literally I had never been to an AA meeting like this ever. It was standing room only. It was so full. It was so packed of so many young people who were happy and sober. And I'm now probably in my late 20s, almost 30. So yeah, I was like probably 29 or whatever. And I went in that room and I judged everyone, it was like an unbelievable scene of how AA can work for people. But I found reasons why I was different, why this wasn't going to work for me. I'm worse than all these people. These people don't get it. I'm too old, whatever. There were people my age too, but all I could focus on was like the young 20 somethings. But then what happened was they randomly look for the new person after the speaker shares to get you up to the podium, and you have to just introduce yourself. And literally, like I said, God doing for me what I could not do for myself that whole night. Like this, like literally changed everything. And I don't know how I did it, but I managed to get up there, and I managed to stand in front of the room, even though I could not see, even though my eyes were open, because the fear was so ridiculous. Like it was so blinding. Like I was so scared. I was absolutely shaking, completely petrified, because I was sober. I didn't have anything in my system. I was not okay sober. And like, I literally just got up there somehow, and I was like, my name's Andrea. I can't stop relapsing. I'm an alcoholic. I can't stop relapsing, and I want to die. And I just sat back down, and like literally during the break, all of these women who I wanted nothing to do with came up to me and tried to give me their phone numbers. And there was this one woman who I, was like literally one of God's angels, is how I can think of it now, because there was something about her. She had a message of weight and depth. She talked to me shoulder to shoulder. She wasn't trying to be better than, but she was literally point blank talking to me about like what was going on with me. And I knew she got it. And she was someone that was practicing her 12-step. And because she practiced her 12-step, I got to have a first step experience, because I was never going to talk to any of these women. I was so afraid, like I'm talking about. And like, she just understood what it was like to some degree of where I was, and I could hear the message from her. And like, that was God working through people for me. And like, that was how it started, where she planted these seeds about AA that I had never knew existed, where we talk about the message in the big book and how we can recover from a hopeless state of mind. And like, I had no idea about it, because like I said, those meetings that I had gone to didn't have a solution either. They didn't know. They just didn't, it wasn't that they were keeping it away from me. They just didn't understand that this was the message of alcoholics that some of us absolutely need to do the work on in order to get recovery. And so this woman knew that message. She talked to me about this. I was against God. I was like, there is no God. I'm not able to do this. And she said, it doesn't have to be a childhood God that you once believed in. It can be something way bigger than that. She said, you get to choose your own conception of God. So like now we're talking about step 2. And I was like, my own conception of God? You literally just told me that I have a disease that centers in my mind, that lies to me in my own voice. And now you want me to pick my own God? Like I literally thought she was tapped. Like I had no idea that this woman, like I thought she should have ended up in the psych wards that I was in, like I was like, no way. And so I needed to really unlearn a lot of old ideas that I had. And she really taught me what AA was versus what I thought, versus what AA wasn't. And she took me through the work and she took me through the book. But the problem was that I had so much stuff that I wasn't willing to do, where I wasn't going to be sponsorable or like take her suggestions, that I was only picking and choosing like what I was still comfortable with. And so I met this woman in 2011. And I didn't get sober till 2013. And it wasn't because she wasn't a great sponsor. It was because I just literally had to play more cards of like figuring it out and doing it my way. And I honestly don't know how I didn't die in the process. Like it took me a while. It really did. But this woman never shut the door on me. She had a firm message and told me the truth. And she did not co-sign because I could manipulate or make anyone feel bad for me. I needed the sponsor that understood what we were up against here. I needed someone that was going to tell me that, you know what, it doesn't matter what your parents say, because my parents would enable me. They would tell me that I couldn't do a 4-step because I have learning disabilities and ADD, and you should tell your sponsor all of this so that you don't need to do this. And like, these were the things, this is like where I come from, right? So like, and like my sponsor gave me a great suggestion. She was like, stop talking to your parents about your program. They don't understand and they don't need to, and like stuff like that. Like I needed, and she was like, I'm here to help you as much as you're going to utilize me. Like she told me the truth, and the thing was like, there was a lot of reasons why I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to feel that pain. It was hard to look at a lot of the stuff that I had done, or all of the anger or of the things that the babysitter had done to me or whatever, like all of it. Like everyone's got their own journey and their own stuff, and no one escapes life. So like everyone's got stuff that they got to go up against. And the truth was like I kept relapsing, not doing what she was asking me to do. And I could not think, I didn't think that AA was going to be the answer for me either. And so at this point, even though she was telling me everything, I really thought that I was different. And I thought that it was harder for me than anyone else. And I kept calling her, crying that I was just going to kill myself. And on May 4th, 2013, I actually did a thorough 3rd step at that time. So I had done many 3rd steps with her. She had taken me through the steps, trying to do this with me a lot. And all the seed was never wasted. All the seeds got planted. It took me as long as it did. But like, I just didn't understand until it was revealed to me more with my own journey and her telling me the truth and what the book was saying and my experience of hitting brick walls, doing it my way, where I finally made the decision on May 4th after going back out on May 3rd. I had about 2 months sober at this point, and I ended up going back out, and I was so done, like with myself. Like I couldn't stand looking at myself in the mirror, and I was so upset that this kept happening and that I lacked the power, and I didn't understand so much, like I keep telling you. And like, it really did take me time. And like, she just told me, because I called her and I was like, I know that AA doesn't work for me, that I'm different. And she was like, listen, you can't tell me that it doesn't work for you because you're not willing to do all of it. You're just doing certain things. And until you do this for 1 year, really commit to doing it 1 year, then you can tell me that AA doesn't work for you. And I was like, fine, because I had nothing to lose. I wanted to die like on the worst way. This time I wanted to plan a suicide where no one was going to find me. You see what I'm saying? Like I was really ready now at this point where there was not going to be any more accidents. And so I was like, fine, I had nothing left to lose. And so I ended up making the decision, with her help, that I was going to do whatever the book outlined and whatever suggestion she was telling me to do. And so when she told me that I needed to get a home group and service position, and I needed to be involved, and I needed to call women that had less time than me, or women with more time than me, and try to get connected and like do all these things, pray morning and night, finish my 4-step, then go on and make amends, like all of this stuff, like just really try to like do it for real. Like that was something that I thought wasn't going to work. And I'll just say that it did take some time, but within 3 months, of really doing everything that she was asking me to do to the best of my ability. No one does this perfectly, just so you understand. And I still don't do this perfectly. But now for me, this is a way of life. And I can't even believe that I get to live this way. And I am so grateful that I had a sponsor that like literally told me the truth so that I could get past myself and have this relationship with God, who can give me the power to solve all my problems, not just my drink problem, but like literally is like the biggest, like it has been the biggest game changer in my life, that like I never want to go back to where I came from. And I am so passionate about AA that I stay in the middle of this thing. And I have a sponsor today. I sponsor women. I sponsor men. I started a home group up at the Fourth Dimension group, is a meeting that I started based on my sponsor's outline of how she started Beacon Group, my sponsor, and she taught me everything about the 36 principles in AA that I try to bring up to where I'm at today for what I've learned in AA to pass the solution up here, because where I live, which is like north of Boston, there is a lot of meetings that I was talking about that don't actually carry the message in the way that I was taught. That it doesn't mean they're doing it wrong, but like I am in a unique situation because COVID happened, that I found myself in an opportunity to be able to help people that were hungry for this, like I was, but just didn't understand that this existed, where I could start something and hopefully help them also have that message where it was so freely given to me. And I just, it's something that has been a life changer for me, because in starting that group, I also, and I'm older, like trying to have a family, because I can't even tell you, I burned my life to the ground for so long. It took me a long time to like get to a place where I thought I was going to be like well enough to have children and like not continue to like pass the cycle of dysfunction on. And so like today I get to break the cycle and like know that like God is here for all of us, and like he wants what's in our hearts, is like the idea of God that I choose to believe today. And like God cannot wait to see what I'm going to do next. And so like all of this fear that I had about moving forward, like maybe and having my own child, and like trying to like be like a regular member of society, like I had to outgrow and commence like this way of life with God's help, who like is literally not really anything more than like the power behind his name. So like if you're like prejudiced against the God idea like I was, like I'm not talking about God that like is in the sky. Like it can be any conception, which I just want to be clear about that. But like this is something that like I was able to do and move forward in my life because the promises came true for me. Like I just didn't know that I was going to be able to look the world in the eye and like be okay with my past and like try to help others regardless of where I came from and be free from that pain that it caused me, and like now I can help people. And so my husband and I, who's also in the program, we decided to finally have a son, and I was 39 years old, so I started late, but like we got married and like we just like fell in love and like really wanted to have a family. And then I ended up my son ended up passing away 2 weeks after he was born, and this is 3 years ago now. And like I could not believe the way that AA showed up for me. Like I didn't know that I was ever going to be able to stay sober through having that much pain. Like I didn't know how much this program was going to actually help me with everything in my life, like I was trying to say. But like life happens, like just because you get sober, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to have tools to be able to handle everything. Like I literally, and so like what I'm trying to say is like that meeting that I had started a year before I had my first son, I am so grateful that I did that because it kept me going. It kept me staying in the middle of this thing. Like I had a purpose, and like this was not an Andrea thought. Like this was definitely like me doing my step like 10, 11, and 12 thought. And like as a result of like really trying to ask God like to make that choice again, because like at first, honestly, after I lost my son, it was tragic how he died. He got sick while he was in the NICU. He was born early, but he was born healthy. But then 3 days later, he ended up getting E. coli somehow, and no one can tell me how that happened. And he ended up dying 2 weeks later, and it was the most painful, horrific experience that my husband and I had ever gone through. But like what I'm trying to get at is like I found that the which wasn't my thought, which was a God leading thought, was like, okay, like, you know what? Like, if this isn't personal, like, if this isn't something that's happening to me, because I really thought it was, like, at first, my brain went right back to that old idea of God that I had, where it's a punishing idea. Like, I literally, what am I going to do with this? Like, how am I going to be able to show up in this world and show others how they can stay sober under any and all conditions? And like, that was something that was leading me to keep going, you know, like, and maybe that was from my son, who's now my other son's guardian angel. I don't know, but it was a thought that I had to lean into, that I had to actually learn how to actually be okay in the most horrific experience of my life. And so now, because I was able to choose God again and continuously, with my sponsor's help too, obviously, this is something I did not do alone, just so you guys understand. Like, this is something where I had to rely and lean on AA to help me get through, and my husband, because it was like it was, I could have really easily just jumped off a bridge, like, and gave up. Like, that's how I felt, you know, but I had to do the work, and I had to choose God again. And God really is all love. And that's like the something that, where the second step tells us, like, it's like either God is everything or God is nothing. And like, I just continue to choose that God is the light, because if I don't choose that, my life, when I didn't, like, I just showed you my whole story, like, literally, without God, I am not okay. And so I am someone that needs a lot of God today, and I'm connected to that, and I'm grateful for that, because all of you helped me get there. And like, now we have another son, and like, it's not to replace Lane, but it's because I knew that God wanted for me to keep moving forward in whatever was in my heart's desires that he put there, you know. And like, we now have a healthy little boy. He's 14 months old, you know, and he is absolutely amazing. Like, I can't even believe that God has given us this joy to be able to take care of. Like, it's just been such an incredible experience and such an incredible journey, but it hasn't come without heartache. And what I have been experienced in my life is that you can't actually experience great joy without great pain. And so like, if you are at a place where you're willing to do something different, where you have had enough pain, you can have the bar be raised here. Like, you do not need to keep going down the rabbit hole. Like, this is something that will change your life if you haven't tried it. And that's all I can say is, like, if you haven't tried it, find someone that actually has what you want. Find someone that has like the message that's like really going to do the deal, and like try to tell you the truth, and like really help hold you accountable, so that you can have access to this power's hand and change your life. It's life changing. So if you're new, struggling, and you want to talk to me too, like, if I'm allowed, I don't know, I can put my phone number in the chat, but like, I am more than happy to talk to anyone that wants to talk to me. So thank you very much for listening. And then the topic, I think maybe we'll just do willingness, if that's a good topic. I don't know.
It's always, willingness is always a good topic.
Okay, great. Thank you.